In New Mutants 98, the lethal Deadpool was introduced to Marvel Comics, and another Canadian funny guy, Ryan Reynolds, brought Wade to life in 2016. Currently, Deadpool 1 and 2 are in the top 3 highest grossing R-rated films of all time. But Wade's story isn't always backflips and quips. No, sometimes his life gets rather sad, being pretty much immortal and all. Welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I'm your host, Taylor McWatters, and without further ado, here are the top 10 saddest things that have ever happened to Deadpool. Let's count them down. Number 10, Evil Twin. In Deadpool 2, we see Wade have to regrow his bottom half. It's one of the best scenes in the movie, and in Deadpool Volume 2, issues 40 to 44, we find Wade in Her Majesty's Ultra Maximum Security Prison in England. While he's in there, he gets close to a psychiatrist by the name of Ella Whitby. She is head over heels for him. She helps him escape, and once he was out, she even found him again, this time wearing a homemade suit to match her love. And then once Wade is out, he gets a letter from her. And upon closer inspection of Ella's apartment, we find Wade's body parts in her freezer. His body parts were in her freezer. She was collecting parts of his body. Yuck. I mean, all those lost limbs have to go somewhere, so I guess. So Wade decides to throw all these parts in the trash, but his healing factor is so good that it causes these parts to grow back together, resulting in an evil Deadpool. And before we continue on with this list, guys, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be great. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Now let's get right back to the sad list with Deadpool. Number 9, Need a Body? Deadpool Volume 1, Issue 61. We see all that remains of the Merc without a mouth. All we have now is his right hand. It's the only part of Wade left, minus the middle finger, of course. Funeral for a Freak is a 4-parter that picks up right after a conflict at the Weapon X facility. His body was literally turned into liquid, so there were no hopes of him healing from this one. But sometimes even a severed hand can still continue the fight. Number 8, Night of the Living Deadpool. Wade's been around the block when it comes to dying. I mean, it's not necessarily new to him, but sometimes the way he goes out is dark, scary, and lonely, even for Wade. We see this to an extreme in Night of the Living Deadpool, written by Cullen Bunn and pencils by Ramon Rosanas. Wade has to go against a horde of zombies all before meeting his ugly fate. For 4 issues straight, Wade's breaking into buildings, trying out new looks, and most importantly, trying to find the source of this worldwide problem, in hopes to maybe discover a solution. Then when a drop of blood hits the ground while Wade's catching up on his beauty sleep, he becomes a zombie himself. Who knew the zombie apocalypse would feel so much like a kick in the jewels, he says. Poor Wade. Now this ends even worse than you'd imagine at this point. The others that Wade did infect turn into an army of Deadpools. Number 7, he got cancer. A kiss, a curse, a cure. Now this story comes right from Deadpool and Death Annual 1998, and it mirrors what happens in the 2016 Deadpool film. We see Wade as a mercenary who gets diagnosed with cancer, so he joins the Canadian Weapon X program in order to attempt to heal it. Now, of course, he ends up getting all these fantastic abilities, but it wasn't easy. Wade had to literally be tortured until his mutation came to life. Once his mutation did develop, he never looked the same. It's actually the reason he didn't approach Vanessa in the film at first. He didn't like the way he appeared. And TJ Miller had a lot to say about that as well. Number 6, Face Off. Now, before I start on this horribly sad Deadpool moment, I mean, sure, his looks weren't the best under that mask to begin with, but would you believe me if I told you that those mutations could even look worse? In Ultimate Spider-Man, Wilson is an anti-mutant who gets hired by the Ganosian government, but of course in Deadpool spirit, it doubles down as a TV event. It's got those Hunger Game vibes for sure. And then when Deadpool is unmasked by Spider-Man, his appearance is even more shocking. And Wade's not overly thrilled about the reveal as well. Even the host, the Stanley Tucci of this show, is like, "Ooh, sorry you had to see that at home, folks. Yuck." Spider-Man even adding insult to injury, saying that his face smells like a KFC dumpster on a hot day. He can dish it out, let's just hope that he can take it. Number 5, Burned Alive. In the 3-parter titled Cruel Summer, beginning with Deadpool 46, we find Wade right after Taskmaster had destroyed his base of operations, the Dead Lounge. So he's in the market. So in order to make the dough to pay for his new luxury hideout, he agrees to work with an undercover police officer. He has to take out these 6 huge mob bosses. That's the deal. Now, this sounds like a piece of cake for Wade, maybe, and it's going fine until he gets betrayed by his informant, Anastasia. Yeah, she teamed up with the police officer, and the next thing you know, Wade is buried alive. And when he tries to light his way to freedom, he gets more than he bargains for, and it quickly turns into a do-it-yourself cremation. All that pain just to get paid. Number 4, Operation Gone Wrong. Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe by Cullen Bunn is a great read. It was released in August 2012, and we pick up with Wade and he's at an all-time low. The X-Men put Wade into the Ravencroft Asylum in attempts to heal his insanity. You know, the trusty doctor being Psycho Man, of course, so things ought to work out. So he brainwashed Wade in hopes to shut down all of those inner voices, those dark voices. It kind of worked, but now there's these new voices that are encouraging him to take out everybody in the Marvel universe. It's brutal. It opens up with the Fantastic Four facing off with Wade, literally facing off. Reed Richards' face is like, it's all melty like, ugh, gross. Sue had to watch her brother get taken out by the Merc before meeting her own fate. To think that Wade was that close to being healed. Instead, he just ended up becoming way worse. Number 3, X-Men Origins, Wolverine. Before getting to the end of this list, I have to mention perhaps one of the saddest things that have ever happened to Deadpool. Before those box office records were shattered, Ryan Reynolds played the Merc without a mouth. Back in 2009, X-Men Origins Wolverine was released. It was actually leaked early, which is already sad for the studio, but also, this was a brutal take on Deadpool. They just didn't do it right at all. Now, in their defense, the film was written during the 2007-2008 writer's strike. So Ryan Reynolds himself had to write the lines for Deadpool. Now, the stage directions would literally just say, Deadpool shows up, talks really fast, makes a lot of jokes. That's it. Now, at the beginning of the movie, it's close to that, almost. Like, Wade is quick with the quips, and the action wasn't that bad. Maybe the sword thing was a little funny, but they made fun of that in Deadpool too, so it's fine. But then he returned later on in the movie for a big showdown, and that's when things were ugly. Him and Wolverine face off, and it's just not it. Ryan Reynolds was barely involved with the character at this point. It was just a stuntman doing flips basically at that point. Nowhere close to the comic accurate representation Reynolds brought to us in 2016. But we got included on this list. Number 2, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Picking up with Deadpool Volume 5, Issue 15, this 5-parter begins with Wade at Weapon X, where the scientist named Butler, who is responsible for Wade's look, has been collecting Wade's organs in hopes that he can solve the cure to cancer in order to save his sister. So he gets the help of Wolverine, they take on the city a bit, it's fun, but they eventually get captured. Now, cut to North Korea, Wolverine and Wade are being held again with Butler, and he's doing these tests. He's creating these Deadpool X-Men creatures, it's gross. And then this is where the sad comes in. Butler tells Wade that Wade has a daughter with a past love, Carmella, and they're also here captured. Yikes. So they end up finding Captain America, who was captured there as well. Now they're the big 3 in town. They're leading all these mutants to storm the camps. They're breaking everybody out. They're saving everyone's family. It's great. They saved a lot of people, but Wade couldn't save Carmella. He couldn't even find his daughter. That's how bad it was. It's heartbreaking, and it's also one of the best Deadpool comics ever. It's a must read. Just bring some tissues. And finally, number 1, X-Men Origins Deadpool. Perhaps an even sadder X-Men origin story. We now look at the origins of Wade Wilson, released in 2010. The concept is quite funny. See, Wade wants to tell his origin story properly before Deadpool, the major motion picture, was released. He even hired a screenwriter to be close while Wade opened up. He opens up about how his looks came to be and those sleepless nights right after he was mutated, adjusting to his new skin. But the saddest part of this origin story is the history Wade and his father had. They had this routine when he was a small boy. His dad would go behind the front door and he would say knock knock, and he'd say, "Who's there?" He'd say, "Cash." "Cash who?" "Cash you." "Ah, I always knew you were a nut. Come here, little rascal." "Ah, good times." But one day he slipped behind the door and he never returned. Even Wade gets choked up talking about it. Also a must read. Guys, thanks so much for watching on Top 10 Nerd. I've been your host, Taylor McWatters. Thanks for joining us. Leave us a comment down below on any other topics you would love to see in future videos. We love hearing your feedback. And until then, we'll see you next time. Peace.